Good morning and welcome to World News here on TVP World. I'm your host, Diana Skaya. And we begin in Ukraine, where Kyiv has once again been targeted by a Russian drone strike. And Moscow's air attacks have also damaged the power grid in Ternopil, a major city in western Ukraine. Local authorities say that as a result, the supply of power, water, and heating was cut. Now, the U.S. think tank Institute for the Study of War reports that Russia is making significant gains in eastern Ukraine. And the Ukrainian army recorded as many as 185 combat engagements along the front line in the past day. Now, the mayor of Kyiv said that air defense was active in various parts of the capital overnight as UAVs approached Kyiv from different directions. Now, in eastern Ukraine, meanwhile, the Russian advances may become operationally significant should High Command exploit them correctly, this according to the Institute for the Study of War. Now, Kyiv says that the most intense battles are taking place around Kurakhove and Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region. The U.S. Defense Department said yesterday that it currently sees no evidence suggesting the presence of North Korean soldiers in the occupied territories of Ukraine or them moving in that direction. European defense ministers from Poland, Germany, France, Italy, and the UK have launched a new defense cooperation format. Now, the Group of Five, announced Monday in Berlin, consists of Europe's 5 largest defense spenders. Now, the ministers spoke of taking over responsibility for Europe's defenses and about stepping up support for Kyiv. Our correspondent Marek Steele was in Berlin and has this next report.
The defense ministers of Europe's 5 largest defense spenders, which are in NATO, announced a new format today. The Group of Five, which consists of the UK, Germany, Poland, France and Italy, spends more than two-thirds of what European and NATO allies, NATO members, spend on defense. And they have said that Europe needs to take responsibility for its own defenses, and these countries are ready to do so. Another main message of the meeting in Berlin is that Europe is ready to support Kyiv and to take on the US's role as Kyiv's main supplier of weapons following the election that took place in November in the United States. Europe is ready to provide Kyiv with more support. Leaders gathered in Berlin spoke about how this support could be doubled, but they also spoke about common defense projects, about developing long-range missiles, developing new weapons as a common European force that can stop the threats coming from Russia.
I'm very happy that we are getting together here today in this Group of Five, E5 meeting. So it's 5 representatives from Europe that are decisive in developing ideas in order to increasing Europe's willingness to conduct defense. We are the ones that have the largest defense spending in Europe, and we had a very open and frank discussion, one that was necessary.
I think the fact that we've come together as the E5 very clearly signals that we will stand unified and ready to protect our continent from aggressors. We will stand firm in the face of Putin's threats, and that together we will be ready to deter any expansion of Russian aggression.
The defense ministers also commented on the Monday plane crash which took place in Vilnius. As we know, a cargo plane crashed there, killing 1 person and leaving 3 people injured. There are fears that this could be another hybrid attack carried out by the Russian Federation against a NATO member state.
A full investigation into the crash must take place, and it will take time. We are in constant contact with our partners in Lithuania, within NATO and the EU. This will definitely be the subject of an extensive investigation. Any connection between this crash and any possible influence of a foreign country is the most pressing matter to investigate here. We will support our Lithuanian friends in these efforts. Regardless of what happened in Vilnius today, all of our countries are under constant hybrid attack.
The 2 most important messages coming from this meeting here in Berlin are that Europe is ready to take on the responsibility for its defenses. The 5 biggest defense spenders within European NATO members are ready to defend Europe, and these nations are also ready to provide Kyiv with as much weapons as it needs to win the war with Russia. The defense ministers established that this would not be a one-time thing, and this format would be continued, and the next meeting is scheduled to take place next year in Poland. Marek Steele, Berlin, TVP World.
During a recent press briefing, U.S. National Security Communications Advisor John Kirby said that the United States is taking Russian threats against the Redzikovo anti-missile base seriously. Now, his comments come amid suspected threats by Russian officials against U.S. allies in Central Europe. Now, speaking at a press conference on Monday afternoon, the U.S. official reaffirmed the Biden administration's commitment to ensuring the safety of U.S.'s partners in accordance with NATO's Article 5. Now, he said the threats against the base in Redzikovo are considered with utmost seriousness, and at the same time, the U.S. is determined to ensure the security of its military personnel stationed in Europe. Now, his comment comes after Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova alluded to the fact that the recently opened anti-missile base is considered one of the priority targets for Russia, and that the Kremlin sees its inauguration as a direct contributor to increasing nuclear threat in Europe. The White House has confirmed that it has authorized Ukraine to launch strikes inside Russian territory using U.S.-supplied ATACMS missiles. Now, our Ukraine correspondent Oz Chatterjee is in Kyiv and has more in this next report.
Well, this is, as you said, the official confirmation of the use of ATACMS missiles and the permission to use ATACMS missiles by Ukrainian forces given Monday by a National Security Council spokesperson, John Kirby. Now, John Kirby said he did offer a bit of insight into what this change of policy might mean and how it's going to be used, saying right now they have the ability to use ATACMS to defend themselves on an immediate need basis. Understandably, that's taken place in and around the Kursk Oblast. So the immediate need basis is really key here to trying to understand why and how the White House sees this change in policy being used by the Ukrainians going forward. Now, we do understand that on Sunday, the Ukrainians used ATACMS missiles inside the Kursk region, targeting a radar installation, an S-400 anti-air system radar installation. These are very, very valuable pieces of kit inside Russian territory. So the Ukrainians are definitely getting use out of these ATACMS missiles and using the new rules of engagement to target things like these expensive radar systems. It's unclear beyond the words that John Kirby used, the immediate need basis. So we're yet to find out just how far into Russian territory the Ukrainians are going to end up using these systems. But for now, this is the official confirmation that we've been waiting for from the White House, given by the National Security Council spokesperson, John Kirby.
Repairs on the underwater cable connecting Germany and Finland is underway. Now, the link was recently damaged along with other fiber optic cables between Lithuania and Sweden. Now, repair work on the cable may wrap up before the end of November, according to the company that's in charge of the works. Now, it still isn't clear who is responsible for damage to the two links in the Baltic Sea. The German and Swedish governments suspect sabotage. Now, a Chinese ship which may be connected to the case is currently anchored near the Danish Straits. Danish media report that the authorities are negotiating with Beijing on the possibility of boarding the ship and questioning the crew. Over 1,000 young people crowded Bucharest University Square, outraged over the results of the first round of the presidential elections. Now, crowds also assembled outside the National Theatre in the Romanian capital, chanting slogans against the shock winner of the first round of elections. Now, Calin Georgescu, according to the students themselves, they will not stop protesting until the runoff vote. Now, the protesters believe they were robbed of their voice as the first round results were highly influenced by social media. Now, the demonstration remains peaceful and is monitored by local law enforcement. The first round of Romanian presidential elections was won by pro-Russian nationalist Calin Georgescu. A strong campaign on social media put Georgescu ahead of his rival, Elena Lasconi, by some 2 percentage points. Now, they will face each other in a runoff on the 8th of December. Germany's Social Democrats have nominated the current Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, as the party's lead candidate in February's federal election. Now, Scholz's nomination comes after 2 weeks of tense discussion within the SPD party over whether to back him for a second term or to rally behind Defense Minister Boris Pistorius. Now, Pistorius, currently Germany's most popular politician according to the polls, announced last week he wouldn't be running for chancellor and offered his support to Scholz. Now, this paved the way for Scholz to be nominated as the SPD's lead candidate, but his approval ratings remain low. Scholz's candidacy must now be officially confirmed at the party conference on January 11, a mere formality. The U.S. Department of State has denied that any agreement has been reached between Israel and Lebanon. Now, at a press briefing in Washington, Matthew Miller said that though the rift between the two states has narrowed significantly, it's still far too large to strike a deal.
What I'd say is we have made significant progress with getting towards a resolution that includes progress from where we were when I spoke to this last week, but we're not done yet. Nothing is final until everything is final. We continue to work to try and get an agreement over the line, and we're hopeful we can get one, but we need both of the parties to get to yes. Look, we don't believe we have an agreement yet. We believe we're close to an agreement. We believe that we have narrowed the gap significantly, but there are still steps that we need to see taken, but we hope that we can get there.
Special counsel Jack Smith is dropping the appeal of a federal dismissal of a criminal case against President-elect Donald Trump. Now, according to the Monday court filing, the decision was motivated by the Justice Department policy stating that a criminal prosecution of a sitting president would violate the U.S. Constitution. Now, Donald Trump stands accused of illegally holding on to classified documents and attempting to subvert the 2020 election. Now, the policy behind the Monday motion dates to the 1970s and says that criminal prosecution would inevitably undermine the highest office in the land. However, courts will still have to approve both requests from prosecutors. Trump faced charges in 4 criminal cases, 2 brought by Jack Smith and 2 in the state courts of Georgia and New York. Now, in the latter, Trump was convicted and barred from running a charity organization in the state of New York. The Georgia case is still in limbo. In a flurry of social media posts, Donald Trump announced he will introduce new tariffs on imports from Canada, Mexico, and China. Now, the president-elect cited drug and human trafficking as the primary reasons behind his decision. Now, Trump wrote that on January 20th, he will sign an executive order charging Mexico and Canada 25% on all products coming into the United States. Now, according to Donald Trump, Canada and Mexico have all the resources to combat issues such as the influx of illegal drugs and immigrants into the U.S. Now, until they solve the problem, Trump said both Canada and Mexico will pay, quote, a very big price. The president-elect also announced similar measures against China. Trump said he's held many talks with Chinese officials about the drugs reaching the United States from China, but admitted his efforts failed. Now, until drugs, mainly fentanyl, stop flowing into the U.S., Trump promised to charge an additional 10% tariff on all products imported from the People's Republic of China. The political winds are shifting in Washington, D.C., a city where over 92% of people voted Democrat. Now, Donald Trump didn't just win the election. His Republican Party secured a majority in both the House and the Senate. Now, with the president-elect promising to overhaul the bureaucracy in the American capital, many civil servants are fearing for their jobs.
Silviana Diaz is a luxury real estate agent in Washington, D.C. In the central part of the city, she's busy selling a house.
The dining room, which also has a nice seating area. I'm seeing a trend where I'm getting phone calls where people are looking to sell their homes after the election. A lot of them are civil servants, and they're just not certain if they're going to have jobs in the city any longer.
It's normal for civil servants to come and go as administrations change. Each president appoints about 4,000 of his own civil servants, but that could change if Trump reinstates what's known as Schedule F, a regulation that would strip tens of thousands of civil servants of dismissal protection. Critics say it's a way to replace critical officials with Trump loyalists.
It's about making the government less accountable to the people and more accountable to the president, him or herself. It's an extremely dangerous proposal, and frankly, I would posit that 50,000 is an underestimate.
Many federal employees are preparing to leave government agencies in the near future. There are fears that President-elect Trump will cut agency budgets, backpedal on policy agendas, or dismiss them for not showing enough loyalty.
And that's all for this edition of World News here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Don't go away as we have interviews up next.